Hello, good morning, my friends. Welcome you on watching on TV on the Money Culture TV network, as well as around the world on LinkedIn, X, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and all of the rest. It is a quite an interesting day. Of course, we have Jerome Powell. Jerome Powell is going to give his speech in just a few hours, and he is either going to come out dovish or he's going to come out hawkish, meaning dovish that, hey, guys, we're probably going to ease off on the interest rates or lower the interest rates here coming very soon. Or he's going to be hawkish and he's going to say that we need higher interest rates for longer, or that the market isn't ready, or whatever. Pretty interesting situation for a number of reasons. Number one, I think that the Fed is very political. Obviously, I talk about that all the time. The Federal Reserve is a privately held bank. We have a banking cartel on Earth that really is in control of most of the countries, and they've done it very sneakily. And what will they do? What will they decide is best? You see a movement right now from everybody. Everybody's talking about removing Joe Biden from the ticket, and I kind of think that's it's depending on which side of the fence you're on. I think that is dicey. I think that the Republicans, and this is just my opinion, the Republicans don't really gain much from removing Joe Biden from office, or two, really from the ticket. I think that Trump has a pretty good chance of getting him beat. Now, if the Democrats do gain, I think, a lot from removing Joe from the ticket. Obviously, they're able to put somebody else in there at the last minute. The public has not had a chance to thoroughly vet whoever it is, or maybe they have. Maybe it's somebody like Obama. I think that the whole two-term thing is in a row, so I don't think the two-term thing would matter for him. I think he could run as a. I think he could run. I don't think it would be a problem. So. Would it be him? Of course, everybody likes to say, "Oh, it's going to be Michelle Obama," which I just don't see at all. She's very unliked. I don't see that happening. But I don't think that Republicans gain anything by one, forcing Joe Biden out, or two, replacing him on the ballot. I think that it's kind of like one of those things where let them, if your opponent is shooting themselves in the foot, don't stop them. You know what I mean? Just go ahead and let them go along with it. That party has known that there was big problems there for a long time. It's not like that is something new for them, or that they're just figuring out. And the fact that they rolled him out there actually for the debate, in my opinion, was on purpose. They wanted to now switch him out. I've said it from the beginning, that the whole thing is a show. It's show, and that he is an older gentleman that is acting like he's senile in order to make sure that he never really gets in trouble for any of the stuff. So who knows? I mean, that's of course my thoughts on the matter. I could be wrong or right. That's what I think. That's what I've said for however many years that he's been in office. As a matter of fact, from the beginning, I said it was an act from the beginning. So, yeah, so a lot going on as well. Of course, the markets are like they are normally ahead of a meeting like this with interest rates. They are, a bit mixed. We had a nice move on crypto, a big inflow into the ETFs as well over the last couple of days. Now a bit of tepidness before it. Now, if he comes out dovish, and we're going to have lower interest rates, you're going to see those markets really take off, and that is going to be a great day. Now, if he comes out hawkish, I feel like the markets are pumped for dovish. And so, we'll see. Now, if it comes out whatever, we'll see kind of what happens. Gold is slightly down. Oil, the big one, man. The oil, I'll tell you what, oil is up. Oil is up at almost $85, and you've probably noticed at the pump that oil is up, which we have predicted for quite a while. Oil is up, and like it or not, that's the deal. That's going to continue, I think, as this goes, and that feeds into everything. You probably noticed as well. Cost of milk went up. Cost of different goods and services will go up. Groceries will go up. If oil and gas are higher, then things are more expensive. That's the way it works. Let's see here. We have Trump immunity. Now, Trump, he had gone to the Supreme Court in order to say, hey, listen, I should not be able to be prosecuted for some of the stuff that I did as president. And the Supreme Court agreed he did have presidential immunity for acts that he did as president, official acts that he did as president. This, of course, throws a big wrench into the prosecutions that have been going on, mostly with this guy, Jack Smith. Jack Smith, pretty interesting situation we have here. I don't think most people are really aware, but Merrick Garland appointed Jack Smith special counsel to prosecute Trump on this. And that was supposed to be, you can't have a special prosecution special counsel. You can't just make up that position. That has to be done by Congress. So you can recommend it and then Congress decides, but he just didn't do it from Congress. And so he got a seething rebuke on that as well, that the Attorney General can't just do that. But, it's kind of all baloney in a way, because it has been allowed to go on for these years and really turn everything upside down. This lawfare that we've been going on. But anyway, Trump does have immunity. You saw the other side, immediately talk about droning him. And, well, if Biden has presidential immunity, then he should just take Trump out. And this, all kinds of really disgusting things. The fact of the matter is, presidents have always had presidential immunity. It hasn't, that's nothing new. I mean, otherwise, we were like droning everybody. Hey there, how are you? Good to see it. One of my friends here saying hi. Yeah, Bush killed so many, at least half a million people during the war. You had, of course, the different wars. Clinton had his stuff over in the Balkans, and of course I remember you. Come on, what are you talking about? Ha 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 ha. They all have presidential immunity. So the fact that Trump wouldn't have presidential immunity for official acts, it would be pretty remarkable. Nothing would surprise me at this point. But anyway, they did rule that he had presidential immunity, which caused a bit of a meltdown. The populist movement is winning elections across Europe. And this is, I think in the Netherlands as well. There was a few other countries. I mean, this populist, this anti-immigration movement is winning elections across Europe. And if Trump gets in again, it would be actually an anti-immigration movement, populist movement across the world. And it's kind of interesting. I talk about it quite a bit on the show because migration is great for the banks. The banks love migration because they're able to issue bonds and they print more money, and it's all part of the government thing. And the migrants, it's not like it used to be maybe where the migrants just came in. I mean, right now, migrants come in, the government is, immediately giving them housing and food and everything like that. So it's a big moneymaker for the central bank and for the government. It's on the back of the middle class is the ones who really end up paying for it, because the way they get the money is diluting the money supply. So if you're super wealthy or even wealthy, affluent, you own things. And so when they dilute the money supply, those things go up in value. And so you probably you don't feel it as much, and two, maybe even your absolutely actually your net worth goes up. But for the average, the middle class or the working class, they're the ones who pay for all of it, and so that has created quite a backlash, and it's an interesting situation because is Europe going to remove all those people? I mean, short of a big war, or the U.S. going to remove all those people, short of a big war, it's very unlikely that any of that happens. And so everybody's, the middle class who's paying for everything is still on the hook for it. Let's talk more about the markets here. I have the great Matt Dixon. Matt Dixon, Sir Matt, how are you?
Hey, good morning. Very good, thank you. Yeah, I was just looking at this. Just going back to presidential, I'll jump onto markets in a minute, but it's quite interesting for people watching in. You mentioned about Obama, and I guess you already know this. I didn't know, but he definitely can't stand for president, can he? Because he's already had his terms.
Well, actually, it's there. That's all new. When I was a kid and when I was growing up, that was common knowledge that you just had to take 2 years off. But now, as the last 5 years or decade, they're like, oh no, you can. But it was common knowledge that even when because Clinton was popular, and they talked about he could take a term off and come back. So I don't know how exactly the wording is on that, but I think the door's open.
Okay, that'd be interesting. And then just again for my listeners as well, just interested about this Gavin Newsom guy. What of him? He seems to be the next probable after Biden, perhaps.
Well, certainly it wouldn't open up this can of worms, right, that I've just mentioned. Obama seems to be fairly happy with staying in the background as well. And I think the talks of Michelle are just she's never run for office for anything. It's just kind of a joke. People like talking about her, but whatever. I think so. Gavin Newsom does appear to be in line. He's also apparently the nephew of Nancy Pelosi, which is quite interesting. So he's the governor of the largest economy, I think, in the U.S., or the second largest economy in the U.S. He's he's good looking. He's well spoken. Now, if he, continued with what he's doing in California, it doesn't look like that would be very good for us as a country. But his name is certainly in there, and I think he would do all right. I think that they would do. Yeah, I don't know. But, you see on and on all the calls to get rid of Biden. So, I mean, I kind of predicted it. It's very remarkable. We've never been in a situation like this where they're going to just switch out the candidate. But I don't know. If they do switch him out, either one, it'll be a sacrificial lamb. And that could be why Gavin Newsom doesn't want to do it. Now, there's also that part of it. So Gavin Newsom says, okay, hey, look, guys, thanks. But no thanks. I'll see you in 2028. Because Trump is probably going to win. He's wildly popular. He's also wildly unpopular, but he's wildly popular. He'll probably get enough votes to win, and if it's a fair election, which who knows. So he might want to just smart move for him. It might just be kickoff.
It's just that Newsom. Yeah, I know Newsom was talking down speculation about him potentially standing. Exactly. But whenever they talk it down, that means
exactly, and he's done that. And remember, I don't know if you remember, but he also our friend here, Newsom, is related to Pelosi through marriage, but he's been working towards the presidency. Yes, he has been. But I didn't think he was an exact nephew, so he's related through marriage. Yeah, of course. And remember, he was going to, and he might have even debated DeSantis.
Yeah, that's great.
Months ago. It was very odd.
Yeah.
He's reminds me of, you ever see the movie American Psycho?
No, I know, I've heard of it, but I've never seen it. No.
I mean, the guy is he's really loves himself. He's looking at himself in the mirror, and that's kind of reminds me of Newsom. And I don't know Newsom, but I mean, that's just, yeah.
Anyway,
we'll see.
On to the markets. I'll present my screen as per usual.
Awesome.
And there we go. We should have a screen there presented.
Yes, there we are. We have XMR.
Which, as you probably know, is Monero.
Yes.
Monero, that secretive coin, which is supposed to be completely untrackable, etc. Not entirely true, but it is actually one of the more untrackable coins. The reason I'm looking at it, I'll just show you on my X feed. Here we are. When it comes up there, you can see Monero. It's actually had an upgrade by eBay. Partially because the volume, 24-hour volume, had a massive pump, 42% additional volume.
Wow.
Didn't get the same following in price, but anyway, there's a number of reasons why it got its upgrade. So it was upgraded, so it's one to watch. So that's why I had a look into it. And that's the way I use the eBay platform. I'll use the watch list, find out which ones have been upgraded, then I'll look into them and do a bit more of a deep dive to see, but it just saves an awful lot of work for me. But yeah, let me just jump back to I just thought it's quite an interesting chart because the recent move down, well, what caught my eye, first of all, from this number 7 here, the movement up, actually looks corrective because there appears to be a bit of overlap, but it's not actually entirely overlapping. So it could potentially be the beginning of a move higher. So what I need to look at is from the top here, from this high point, just recently back in June, well, when was it back in June? I mean, just 10th of June was this recent high at 180, somewhere around $182. We've moved down, and I wanted to look at whether it's impulsive or corrective to the downside. That's very, very important when I'm looking at a token to decide whether it's going to break to a new high above this previous high here, or whether it's actually starting its way down again. So what I look for is the movement down. Is it corrective or impulsive? Now, a corrective count, there are different, but basically 3 waves down will be corrective, but also 7 waves down is corrective as well. 5 waves is impulsive. So this, you can count just very simply here. We're looking for a new low, and then so a lower low and a lower high on the way down. So we have one lower low, one lower high. That's 1, 2. Another lower low that's below here, below number 1, and then another lower high, which is below 2. And then we have another lower low, labeled number 5, which is below 3, and another lower high, which is labeled 6, below 4, and so on and so on. So basically we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Now, as I said, 7 is what's called a corrective count. And basically it tells you that the move down is a correction, not an impulse. So it tells you that the direction of the trend, as we can quite clearly see here, is actually still higher and not lower. And so I would conclude from this that the market hasn't turned and is yet to make another high above this previous high here of 182. And we're currently 169 on the price. So that gives me reasonable confidence looking across the board, because there is reasonable correlation across the assets, and we can see this sort of pattern elsewhere as well. But this is, for me, very, very clear. I don't think it's disputable at all. You know, the count is absolutely clear. You have to look for a lower low and a lower high to be able to count it as a 1 and a 2 and a 3 and a 4 and so on. So this just little charting tips that I like to try and pass over to you that I've learned over many, many years, as Bruce knows, nearly 40 years, well, in fact, over 40 years of trading now. This is a good one because it's corrected down, so I'm thinking it's going to be higher. So I will be looking for opportunities to buy at the lows. When I say buy the lows, DCA in at the lows. I don't always put all my eggs in one basket, but if we were, for example, when we got down to the 7th here, I will be looking for potential buy opportunities, maybe DCA with a stop loss somewhere a little bit below. This was actually a good place for a stop loss. So again, trading tips. So I'll just put the horizontal line on here. So the previous low there. So that would have been the support here. So price is supported here. That was basically a price pivot low there. So that provides support. So if I entered a trade here, and again, I could have looked where to enter the trade by drawing some kind of trend line, an approximate trend line. It's not exact, but just approximate down here. You can see it's not precise. You can make it slightly different, but an approximate trend line. So I put my trade in around here, and I put my stop loss below the previous pivot low, below this dotted line. So you can see the downside is this amount from here to just below down here somewhere. The upside from here to all the way up, because I'm expecting it, because this was corrective, I'm expecting price to go above this previous local high of 182. So my buy-in price was 156. My stop loss might have been 151, so that's $5 downside, and then 156 to the previous 182. So that's $26 upside. So you can see $5 downside, $26 upside. So I've already got a 5-to-1 ratio, risk-reward ratio. So risk of 1 against profit of 5. It's a 5-to-1. It's better than 5-to-1 actually, but 5-to-1 risk-reward ratio. And on top of that, the chances of breaking this low are relatively small compared with the chance of breaking higher. So not only have I got 5-to-1 risk reward, I've also got the chances of the trade going in my favor as well are better than evens. So that's the sort of trade you need to be taking. And yes, you might make a loss. It might crash through here, go through the floor, who knows? But you got your stop loss here. So with your 5-to-1 risk reward, for every 5 trades you take, you would only need 1 trade to come in your favor, and you're actually better off. And on top of that, as I say, the odds are in your favor anyway, that it's likely to go higher rather than lower from this sort of level. On top of that, you would even be looking at, and I'll just show you very briefly here, a further indication. You'll be looking at what's called divergence. So we have looking at RSI, looking at the corresponding. So basically, we've got lower lows on price, and we'd have to put that up to not the spike low, but we've got the solid body of the candle. So lower lows on price, and we've got higher lows on RSI. That's telling us of regular bullish divergence. So on top of what I've just told you, this was a corrective move down. We had support here. We also have regular bullish divergence. So we've got 3 things in our favor telling us risk reward is good. Jump in on this trade with your stop loss in place, DCA, whatever. And the chances are it's going in your favor. Exactly what it did. But this is just telling you the sort of setups that you need to learn. And there's 100 different rules and setups and indicators you can use. But I tend to stick with 3 or 4 regular, reliable indicators that are quite simple. And this gave you a very simple entry into the market here. As I say, you can see it's clearly going up higher. I'm expecting quite a bit higher. So what I would do now, if I'd entered XMR here, we've moved up quite a lot. So from the entry point was 156. The price now is 169. So we're $13 in profit. I probably I'd protect a couple of dollars with my stop loss. So I put my stop loss now just above the entry point. Now, if the market falls through the floor, I'm now guaranteed a profit no matter what happens. I don't need to worry. I can go to bed with my stop loss in place. Don't need to worry. I have guaranteed profit no matter what happens. But if it carries on up, I can take my profit here at the local high here of 182, or I can maybe go a bit higher. But I'd probably at least protect my profit up here. So now you've got guaranteed profit, potential for much more profit. Again, these are the trade situations that you want to be looking for. So I think
this is how you win in trading.
Absolutely. So this is kind of, again, off the back of eBay gave me gives the indicator, basically the upgrade or the downgrade, and maybe across a few different assets. But because instead of looking at 1,000 different assets or more, I'm now only looking at just a handful of assets that I can look into. And just on that note, I just think it's quite interesting. I'll just look at something yesterday, which is quite important. One I posted yesterday. This is amazing. It tells me why the market. So a lot of people are complaining, oh yeah, we've seen Bitcoin pumping to pretty near all-time high, but actually it's not really exceeded the previous all-time high from a couple of years ago. And then all the altcoins are still in the doldrums. Why is that? Now, here's the reason why. In 2013, this is CMC, and it's looking at general solid cryptocurrencies, the real solid cryptos that are out there with real use case and a bit of volume, etc. In April 2013, there were just 7 solid or valid cryptocurrencies. And you can see that's grown each year. January 14, 67, 501, and so on. January 2023, there were 9,002. And now March 2024 is 13,200 odd cryptocurrencies, solid, proper cryptocurrencies. So what we're actually seeing, if you look at the market cap, for example, from the previous all-time high a couple of years ago for Bitcoin, when it was 67, 69, whatever it was, somewhere around there, similar sorts of price to where it is now. The market cap, overall market cap of everything is actually identical. Also, the market cap of Bitcoin is virtually identical. It's not changed. So the difference is the market cap of everything else is, yes, it's the same, because if you subtract Bitcoin from it, it's exactly the same market cap. But instead of being spread across 7 cryptocurrencies, it's now spread across 13,000 cryptocurrencies. So we've got the same amount of capital chasing thousands more cryptocurrencies. So you can now see very clearly why the altcoins have been underperforming. And people are searching for whatever reasons they want to, they think they can find, but this is the reason. So get some impetus into this market, we need to have more capital into the market. And so something big has got to change. We've got great new cryptocurrencies coming to market. We've got Solana, we've got Toncoin, we've got some great new ones coming to market, but they're all chasing the same amount of capital, more and more tokens out there. So what we perhaps need a cleansing of the system, but actually a lot of these are genuine valid cryptocurrencies, so maybe that's not the answer. We actually need more capital into the market, more capital allocation to cryptocurrencies. So there's still an awful lot of education to be done. There's an awful lot of adoption to take place before cryptos can really catch up their yesteryear, their previous highs and so on that they used to have. A lot of the big tokens, so many of them are nowhere near their all-time highs. There's only a handful like Bitcoin that are there.
That's true. I mean, Litecoin 300.
Yeah.
Bitcoin Cash nowhere near it.
Absolutely.
Ethereum is, I guess it's near 5,000, but it's still a ways off.
Still a way off. I mean, they're all there. I mean, the only thing, Bitcoin may have been pushed, and even Bitcoin's still a way off its all-time high, at 62,000, I think, right now.
Yep.
All-time high 74, still a little bit off percentage-wise, but
it is
not
decent amount percentage-wise. I was thinking about that yesterday. That is a pretty big move, really.
Yeah, a lot of them, as you say, there's massive difference. I mean, even Solana, though, it's still 148 right now, which is a good price, but the previous all-time high going back was about 260. So we're still massive way off the all-time high, and that's Solana, an amazing token. Admittedly, the previous local high of 210 was actually the all-time high market cap of Solana, so higher than when it was 260. But that's because there's inflation in the Solana system. So there's a lot more tokens than there were when the price was 260. So you're going to take these things into account. Again, another little area of research people probably should be doing when they're investing in tokens. Look at the inflation rate on the token. Is there an inflation rate? Well, Bitcoin's inflation rate is very, very, very low because of the halving events that have taken place. There's less and less supply coming on. And actually, there's also tokens have been lost over the way. So Bitcoin, I think, has about 19,700,000, something like that, tokens in existence. And by the year 2140, I think they'll have the 21 million. So they're almost there. I mean, they've got another over 100 years to go before they reach the max supply. So you can see it's just going to be dwindling and getting less and less and less, and especially with lost tokens. So Bitcoin doesn't have a problem with inflation. Some tokens do have substantial inflation. So that's just another little area you need to take into account. And again, just looking at the magnitude of where they've been. I mean, ADA, for example, is one of those tokens that's been very, very popular. But if we just go long term on it, we can look at where the previous all-time high was. Just having to scroll out there on a weekly. So the previous all-time high on ADA was $3.15. The price right now is 41 cents. So we can see the massive difference, $3.15 to 41 cents. That's round about 8 times difference between what it was and what it is. Sorry, the previous high and what it is now. There's a factor of 8 times difference. 8 times 42
Huge.
it's the same. And that's because, as I said, the number of cryptocurrencies that are now out there that people can invest in. So it's just the same capital spread across them. So tells you even more so that you need to be doing your research. Don't just follow what people are telling you, what's currently trending, whatever. What you've heard's got a good white paper, just thinking of ADA, for example. You need to really look at what is current, what the current trend is. And it could even be a meme coin. Maybe meme coins might be a good investment for the time being, but you need to be current with your research to identify those good tokens. So we'll just have a quick look at Bitcoin. Now, again, looking really good to me. Again, we mentioned basically Monero is potentially corrective, looking to go higher soon. I think that's very much the case here. I'm pleased actually that we're focused on the weekly right now. This is looking at a long-term view of Bitcoin. And I like it because remember I said the other day, this is an undecided situation here. So when you get a spike above, it means basically it's testing higher and failing. When you get a spike below, it's testing lower and failing. And it keeps doing that above, below with these spikes in price. And it basically means the price is very much undecided. But that's also very much the situation of a corrective move, which is undecided, choppy movement, overlapping movement. It's corrective. And we're looking long term here. You can see I'm looking back on this chart now from the previous all-time high that it had of 69,000. This was back in, when was it? Back in November, I think it was November 21. Wow. So we're talking quite a way back now. November 21 was the previous all-time high, back before this recent all-time high after the ETF. But we're chopping all around there. So it's a little bit concerning that we're not able to break comfortably above this previous all-time high, despite the fact we've got the regulated ETF, despite the fact that market cap is pretty much near all-time high, but Bitcoin has held its own in terms of market cap, but we're still not managing to break, and we need something. There's clearly some worry in the market why the market hasn't grown. The overall market cap of everything is still the same, but more tokens, as I say again. But this is a little bit worrying for me. But I do think that this being a corrective move here, like Monero, I think we're going to push above this local high here. Well, it's actually the all-time high here with Bitcoin. I've got the ATH all-time high at that 74,000 mark. This being corrective looks as though we're going to push above it. But it's a little bit concerning that if we counted this as wave 1, wave 2, wave 3, this is wave 4 of some sort, potentially a wave 5 higher, that could mean that we're then going to get a substantial correction down. So I would be interested, especially looking on this weekly chart, at DCAing around all these low levels where the wicks are down. I'll be looking at DCAing around these. See within a channel, an ascending parallel channel. So my stop loss will be somewhere below this channel here, which we can just spread that out a little bit so you can see here. So like here, when the price dipped down to touch that previous the channel, the support line of the channel here, which is tested there, tested again here. So you put your stop loss just below and go long. So this is an ideal situation to DCA, go long with stop losses just below and your potential profit much higher. So I do think that we've got at least one more leg higher. And I think that leg could potentially take us to the top of this channel, which might be anywhere in the 89, 90, early 90s, whatever, somewhere. I can't tell exactly where it would end on this overhead resistance, but somewhere up here around the $90,000 mark. So I think we are going to get a good rally. And again, what would support this rally? We had ISM out yesterday, manufacturing, came out a little bit weaker, which tells us that maybe the economy is softening a little bit. In fact, of the last 12 months of ISM figures, we've only had 1 month above 50. That means there's only 1 month of manufacturing growth out of the past 12 months of readings. That's telling us the economy is not really growing. In fact, it's struggling a little bit at the moment, I think. And then we've got Fed Chair Powell tonight with a speech. Let's see what he has to say. As I said yesterday, if he's any more dovish, on his commentary, then potentially that could provide some upside impetus. So if he thinks that, we're anywhere closer to interest rate reductions than he said at the last meeting, then potentially that could be quite bullish for risk assets. So we need to watch out for that one. It's 5:30 Dubai time. I'm not quite sure what time that is in America, but well worth checking it out, listening to that, and see what he has to say, because that'll give us the next direction on risk assets. But we could potentially dip a little bit lower, but I do think overall I wouldn't be worried, because I do think we're going to push at some point to a high above the previous all-time high. So I'm quite confident with that. Solana, I know we just touched on it, and I'll go back to a 4-hour chart just to show us a little bit more detail on that. I'm quite bullish Solana as well.
Yeah.
And you can see I've got my arrow there. And again, I think we've had basically probably a completed ABC correction. We may possibly potentially dip a bit lower. As I said yesterday, we've got a target only just slightly overhead now. Let me try and open this out a bit more so you can see. I've got too much labeling. I might just remove this labeling, actually, I think, just so you can see it very clearly. So we can basically see we're waiting, hopefully, to surpass this previous high here to push to the upside. And that was previous resistance. So what I did, I drew in a line there. I'm just putting the horizontal ray from the previous local high there. We need to break that to open the way higher. If we break that tonight, I think we'll get a good little rally to the upside. But at the moment, it's overhead resistance. And that's why price is struggling just below it. It's bouncing along and it's not yet able to break it. And the reason it can't is waiting for some data, it's waiting for some impetus, it's waiting for some news to actually give it the power to push through this overhead resistance. Now, obviously, if we don't get any good news tonight or in the near future, then it's going to fail at overhead resistance and probably head a bit lower. So that could potentially be an A, B, and a further C down. Or it could be A, B, C already complete and we're pushing up. So it all depends on what the news is going to be coming out. And this is why I watch so carefully on important fundamental news. Last night's ISM wasn't a big mover, but the big movers in the US are employment information, employment data. So when you get non-farm payrolls, that's one to really watch. It has a massive impact on markets, on FX markets, on stock markets, and also on crypto markets. So non-farm payroll is one to watch. The other one is CPI, obviously inflation. Really, really important because it impacts the future outlook, in fact, the future path of interest rates that's determined by the Fed and the FOMC at their meetings. And it is these American data points that you need to be watching, because that is, the world currency, reserve currency is still the US dollar. So it's this American data that we need to be watching. European data has a little bit of an effect, but not much really compared with the likes of the US data. So there's CPI, there's also PCE, which is the Fed's preferred measure of inflation. So these probably are the three major data points I would look at. And then the others, in my mind, a little bit secondary. So you can look at other data points like the ISM manufacturing, etc., that are slightly less important, but they still have some impact. And then the obviously very important is actually interest rate setting itself, and what the Fed chair and even what the governors of the Federal Reserve have to say. So Fed chair being the most important, what he says in his commentary tonight could be market moving. So this is why these are the sorts of data that I'll be listening out to. So the market is driven by technical analysis, which is actually all based on historical data. It's also based on fundamental data, which we're talking, about outside influences that can impact the market. So historical data is really historical price data. That's the TA. And then we're looking at the fundamental data is all the new information coming from outside. And that can be either new economic data crossing the wires, or it can be geopolitical. So wars and that kind of thing. All sorts of geopolitical things that could potentially happen, both natural and man-made events can have an effect on prices. So they're the two main things. And then the other factor that we shouldn't really be even thinking about is inside information. So they're the things that affect prices. And that's according to academic theory. something called efficient market hypothesis. These are the things that move prices. And obviously they're all driven, what they drive is supply and demand. So going back to a bit of an economics lesson there. Just jumping in here to DXY, dollar index. Again, we seem to be testing all-time highs again here. I was quite surprised that it's pushed up again with no particular reason for it, but it pushed up a bit. And we can see there's not been a major effect across the crypto assets in particular. They're all pretty well flat, slightly on the green side. Maybe that one. In fact, I'm going to delete it because it's so annoying. So looking across the board, in general, the market's slightly on the green side and the reds are very, very minor. So telling me at the moment there's a slightly positive influence and maybe they're expecting more dovish news to come out of Fed Chair Powell.
Well, with that move as well over the last couple of days up, I think that, it would indicate that we're in for dovish remarks, but we'll find out soon.
Yeah, it's hard to tell. I mean, I'm just trying to see which is the high point here. So the high price there is 106.13 and the high price there was 106.12.6. So this was the high point. So I've had 1, 2, 3 waves. So potentially this does look corrective down. So it does look as though we probably would push to another high above this at least before we then push the downside. So what I'm saying is this was the high point here. We've had basically a wave 1 down, a wave 2 up, and a wave 3 down. Well, that actually wouldn't be 1, 2, 3. It would be ABC. ABC is corrective, telling me we should get another high, probably above this previous high here. So I do expect maybe we get another little push higher, but I'm actually expecting that we'll see some weakness soon in the US dollar because I think that the outlook is going to start to soften a little bit. And we're seeing S&P again looking pretty corrective, some kind of A, B, and C, and I think we'll get some more upside coming reasonably soon on the S&P 500. So that's looking bullish as well. There's good correlation between the S&P and between Bitcoin and other cryptos. So with S&P looking corrective, with more bullish movement to the upside to come, new all-time highs I think are coming soon on the S&P 500. So that's looking encouraging. And then gold. Again, still in this sideways consolidation. It's been going on such a long time. We had such a good, powerful rise in gold right up until, end of April this year. Well, I say end of April, mid-April this year. From that time, pretty much sideways consolidation. This is really, for me, is buying opportunity time. When you see sideways consolidation following a long rise, it's effectively what's called a bull flag. You've got the flagpole here, which is a long impulsive movement to the upside, and we could see even more of that. The more we scroll out, the more we'll see it, basically. So a long impulsive movement is the flagpole. This is the flag waving. Following that, it's called a bull flag. You would expect a movement to the upside. I'm not saying immediately necessarily. I've said for a long time, we may just get another little dip further, perhaps just below this A wave, but we're chopping around here. So all around this sort of level, I'd be looking, if I'm into gold, I'd be looking at DCAing and buying more around these levels because I think it's reasonably conclusive that we're going to see new all-time highs for gold. Here's the previous all-time high. We're not a long way off it anyway, 2450-ish, somewhere around there, wasn't it? 2449, I think. And we're 2324 right now. So we're not a long way off, but these are the sort of areas I'll be looking to DCA. I do think it's wise to hold gold as part of a well-diversified portfolio because it's not correlated directly with many other assets. In fact, it's not really correlated. It's what's called an uncorrelated asset. And Markowitz, a previous Nobel Prize winner, said that you need to hold as many uncorrelated assets within your portfolio as you can, within reason. Theory suggests maybe 17 different assets, but this should be one of the 17, I suspect, which is uncorrelated. And it diversifies your portfolio, it reduces the risk, and it gives you the best risk-adjusted return over the long term. So that's gold. Just touch very briefly on Litecoin. Again, since we were saying Litecoin was a really good buy to DCA around these sort of levels, we've come up quite nicely. I think we were talking around a 70, 72 level. I think we were saying it's time to get into to Litecoin. We're now 75, so we're well in there, and you can be protecting your position, guaranteed profit situation now. So that's looking really, really promising. And we can look across so many other assets. But I will just touch on one more, because Tom is one that we featured in the eBay ratings before.
It's so nice, huh?
Yeah, gave it some good upgrades, and look at the power of this up move here. Very, very powerful. So we're now above $8 for Toncoin. This is one of those tokens that has it's amazing fundamentals behind it, and even the technicals are looking great for potentially new all-time high again very, very soon by the look of it. So I think Toncoin, we've been featuring it, and we've been talking about it even from these lows back when it dipped to the $6 area.
Yep.
$6. We're saying it's a good one to get into, to be DCAing down here. I mean, it's difficult to be jumping in at this late stage, although it does look as though it's got higher to go. So I'm always a little bit wary about chasing big gains. And I like to basically buy pullbacks. And clearly this isn't a pullback, this is a rally. And I hate jumping on the back of rallies because it's dangerous. It's the opposite of catching a falling knife. Whether you can have such a thing as catching a rising knife, I don't know, but it's dangerous, because this is a situation, if we looked at the fear and greed index, actually it'd be just very interesting just to see where we are on fear and greed, in fact. I don't know, we've got a moment just to see.
Yeah, check it out.
Yeah. Here it is. Okay, so we're right in the middle still, neutral, 51. It's right in the middle on the fear and greed index. You can probably see there. This is the crypto fear and greed index. Telling me that there's still a lot of opportunity in this market, but it can go both ways. So you need to be very cautious, which is why we talk about dollar cost averaging, and why we're talking particularly about buying dips rather than chasing highs. But as I said, Toncoin is a strong one, so I definitely do some due diligence on that and look at it as a potential. But with fear and greed right in the middle, it means there's a lot of opportunity for both potential downside and upside, and it will be data dependent. So like the Fed's so often using, that's one of their favorite phrases, data dependent. That's what we will be ourselves. We're waiting to see what data comes out, what Fed chair might share tonight in his speech to give us some guidance on whether we should be long or short the market. So all in all, market's still looking positive, still new highs to come across the board, I believe. Even Bitcoin, I still think we're going to break the previous all-time high. So all in all, I'm bullish the market, but also cautious at the same time. But I think in my mind, we're going to see new all-time highs for Bitcoin, and the rest will chase it. Most of them probably won't see all-time highs because, as we said earlier, there's so many more tokens in the market, that same capital spread across them. But in general, from here, I think things are looking positive. So hope that's helpful. Hope it gives some guidance. I've gone on longer than usual, but thanks for having me anyway.
All good, man. It's a great segment. It's all very interesting stuff and important. So great show. It's a holiday week here in the US. So I was even driving one of my daughters. She has like she's going into freshman year, so she has kind of an intensive camp or whatever. And yeah, it's pretty funny week all in all, but the markets seem to be still operating. So July 4th, which is a Thursday, is a holiday. Friday will be a total wash. Really, the whole week is kind of a wash. So keep that in mind too. It's interesting to see the volume on XMR. So good stuff. I have as well. Go ahead.
Let me know if I'm allowed a holiday, Bruce.
Yeah. Well, of course. I'll do the show, or maybe we will run a rerun. We can discuss it. I have some friends in town on that night, so I don't like to, me. I usually like a routine, but we'll see.
Yeah, no matter what, let's try and stick to it. There's always news, and
it's always news. So we are growing, and I got the word yesterday from the big guy Fly Mackey at Smart Money Culture TV. He was really bouncing off the walls, and he said he got us. He's working. It's coming to the close of the negotiations of 100 different stations. Should put us in front of 136 million people. So that comes through. That's major.
Very good.
Yeah.
Great. Well, congrats and thank you, and catch you tomorrow.
Amazing. Cheers. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
So one of the things that we get to do, of course, working with good friends over at Patriot United, is we get to interview some amazing America First candidates. Is it the 3 or 4 weekend for the 4th? I have no idea. It's kind of like a whole weekend. It feels like to me. Nobody seems to be working. So Patriots United, and I think it's Patriots United with an S. .us. I can just make sure of that right now. But this group has been bringing us a lot of different America First candidates. So hats off to these guys. And if I can just find his, I have a lot of DMs in here, as you can imagine. His thing, I will put up his website. Let's see. Here he is. Okay, so the website, and I'm going to put it up here on the thing, is Patriots with an S, patriotsunited.us is their website, and they're doing an amazing job. You know, one of the hardest things really to do is to know who are the good people, right? I mean, you're working on different things, you're trying to make different things, vote for the right people and all this stuff, but who is the right person to vote for. So let me just put this down here. I'm gonna edit this one. Yes, here we go. Patriots United.us. Make sure to give them a go over and check out their website at patriotsunited.us. There it is right there. patriotsunited.us. I guess I can take off the that part. There we go. And they have done a wonderful job of bringing us America First candidates. So speaking of America First candidates, I have Jeanette Garcia. Jeanette Garcia is running for city council in Avondale City. She's going to tell us more about it. Now, one of the things I talk about that's so important is the fact that we need to work at a local level as well. Like, it's one thing to run for U.S. House or the U.S. Senate, which is always like it's a big take, guys, big ask, you know what I mean? But it's another thing to be at this local level. And that's where actually a lot of this stuff is that we can affect, that we can really have a lot of influence on, is handled. It's there on the local level. And so I like to see when people are making moves to join the city council, to be involved in the school, to be involved in the different elected positions, because that's where it all happens. And one of the things you'll even hear in the interview, she talks about the people that she's running against. She has 2 Democrats and one person that identifies as a Republican, but they always votes Democrat. So it's hard for, again, going back to patriotsunited.us, it's hard for the average person to understand who to vote for, right? Who am I going to vote for? Maybe you want to vote for somebody, on the other side, but it's important. Patriots United doing a great job letting you know who to vote for, who to support, and getting them in front of the right people, and even bringing them on a show like this with a decent audience. And look, this is the America First candidate that you guys want to pay attention to. So I interviewed her yesterday. Arizona is 3 hours behind us, so I didn't want to make her come on TV at 3 or 4 in the morning. So I interviewed her yesterday, and here she is right here, Jeanette Garcia. Yes. And our interview. Hello and welcome back here. We have a special guest today, Jeanette Garcia from Arizona. She is running for the Avondale City Council. She's an Avondale City Council candidate. She is one of our friends, the Patriots United. Of course, they're doing such a great job bringing us America First candidates. And they said, Bruce, you got to talk to Jeanette. So we had a good call yesterday and wanted to do a recording so we could bring it live. Arizona is 3 hours behind us here in Washington, D.C. How are you, Jeanette?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you? Thank you so much for having me today.
Oh, of course. Fantastic. Thank you for coming on. It's always a pleasure. You know, it's such an important time in our history of the country that it's so important that we have people that are willing to run for office, because it is, like I say, you know, taking the many poisonous needles that could come your way. So tell me a little bit about your inspiration and what got you here to this point where you're running for the Avondale City Council.
Awesome. So my inspiration was, I live in a very Democratic area. I live in Avondale, which is the suburbs west of Phoenix. And I noticed in 2022 that there was no candidates campaigning in my area, which is the Southwest Valley, which includes Avondale, Buckeye, Tolleson, Cashin, and it's just like a really small area. And I was like, why aren't people coming out here? Like, are our votes not valuable? And since people were not coming out, I said, you know what? Then I'll do it. And I threw myself in 2022 as a write-in candidate, not knowing anything about like the process. I Googled how to become a congressman, and I filed, and then I ended up being a write-in candidate for Arizona House of Representatives. Two, write-ins are difficult in general, and no one could spell my name right because there's too many N's, too many E's and T's. But it gave me a foot into the process of how it does work for candidates and politics, and how much we as normal people can get involved. And I said, if I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it locally. Like, why don't I run for my city council? And that's kind of like where I'm at now. Like, I want to serve the city that I grew up in, that I graduated high school from, and that I'm raising my son in.
Amazing. Well, you know, it's probably, you know, stepping stones, right? So it was the big show. Now, who are you up against? What does the city council look like? I know we spoke to some of the people like David O in Philly, and he was running, I think, for mayor, but he was city council for years, and it took him a little bit to break into it. You know, it was like the good old boys network kind of deal. What does it look like there in Avondale City?
I feel like it looks the same way. So there's 3 open seats. There's 4 people actively running, and a brand new write-in candidate just jumped in the race. So we're all women, the 4 of us that are running. 2 Hispanics, 1 Black, 1 white, 2 Democrats, 1, she says she's Republican, but supports all the Democrats, and myself. And I'm an open Republican. I'm an open conservative. I tell everyone, even though it's a nonpartisan race, I think it's very important that we know who's running our cities, because whoever we put in there, they're going to vote that way. And that's why we have sanctuary cities. That's why we have other cities that are filled with homelessness and like horrible laws. So nobody else speaks about their political party but me, and they don't like it. They absolutely are going around calling me an extremist, a MAGA, to all the people in the neighborhood. I go, that's great. Yeah, you're telling people that I love kids, that I care about your kids' education, that I care about you as citizens of Avondale, and that I'm here to fight for you guys and not other people.
Well, that's a great it's a great story. It's a great mission too, right? That's really what it should be like. And I talk about it all the time. Actually, over the years, I've talked about it quite a bit, because it is so hard to break into it. Even it's hard to break into it at a small level, but it's hard to break into it at a bigger level. I mean, you want to run. People are like, oh, like you saw, writing candidate for the House. That was the state House. But, people try to think, oh, I'm going to run for the U.S. House, or it's the U.S. Senate, and it is the big house. It is hard. It's hard to get in. And the reality is that a lot of the stuff that is almost beyond the control of the people up there. It happens on the local level. And you look at what happens at the voting precincts, and you look at the decisions that are made. that is where, that's where we all need to be involved, because it also, maybe it doesn't take as much time and everything like that. So that's great. So tell me a little bit about your history, what you've done up until now.
So I'm an Army combat veteran. I was a military police officer. When I was deployed in Afghanistan, I was part of what is known as a female engagement team, which is a special team they had back in the day of 2 to 3 females who would go out with the infantrymen and do basically everything that they had to do. We'd have to search houses. We would have to search the women, build rapport with them to get intel. And I did that for 5 years, and I got pregnant at the end of my contract. But prior to that, I was actually one of the first females that got selected to go to Ranger School for their pilot program.
Nice.
But because I got pregnant, I didn't get to do it. So I'm always like, oh, that would have been so cool. I would have probably failed because it's actually so hard.
It is so hard, right?
But it's so cool to even have been considered. And I came back home to Avondale. I lived in Buckeye for 1 year, and I was like, no, Buckeye's kind of like more farmland. It's like a brand new area. And I was like, 10 minutes away from the city's too far. So I came back to Avondale, and I'm raising my son here. I was a federal police officer at Luke Air Force Base for 3 years. And then I worked in corporate for a little bit. And now I'm kind of immersed in politics. I work for Turning Point Action. I'm a precinct committeeman. I was also a state delegate. And I think this is just another way of me to serve my country and my community again.
Oh, that's amazing. So we were one of the partners. I've tried to go to I wanted to go to the conference in Detroit, but I have kids myself. I have a 9-year-old and a 14-year-old, and sometimes it just gets dicey. I thought that when they were older, I wouldn't have to be around as much, but it's actually been the opposite. When they were younger, I did a lot more traveling than now. That when they're older, I feel like I have to be around more. They need dad. They need me doing things a lot more. But so that's great. Charlie Kirk does a great job putting that together. Were you out in Detroit?
I was out in Detroit. It was such an experience to see everything come together. But working with an organization that has the same values that align with mine, and that they're not ashamed of anything they do. They're like totally vocal about it. It's like refreshing for me. It's so nice because we need this for what we need out in the communities and what we're doing.
Yeah, well, that's one of the things that Trump did. Before Trump ran, most of us just kept our mouth shut about all kinds of stuff. And then when he ran, he said all kinds of stuff that people thought, well, maybe that was offensive or maybe it wasn't. But no one was able to even say it before. At least we could talk about it, after he ran. And so that was like one of the best things that he did, was he made, us to be able to talk about things. And then, fast forward to where we are now, it's just absolutely crazy. Bannon went to jail this morning or this afternoon. Bernard Carrick and I have been, we follow each other on X. I mean, we're not like friends or anything like that, but, we at least run in the same circles and repost each other here and there and stuff like that. And they saw the post, and it just, it's crazy. It's crazy. And then, of course, I just feel like even the the presidential immunity announcement was timed. I feel like it was choreographed so people weren't talking about the fact that Steve Bannon is going to jail. I mean, it's absolute insanity what's going on. So what are some of the things that, are going on in Arizona? What are some of the things that you would really like to improve in Avondale from the city council?
Well, that's funny. That's such a good question because I'm actually just trying to keep Avondale. Most people run because they want to see change. I don't want Avondale to turn into Phoenix. I don't want those liberal policies and politics over here. It is a pretty suburban place. It's a great place to raise your family, to buy your first home, and all of those things. And I don't want all of their trash to come over here. And Phoenix deserves a better mayor. Phoenix is a beautiful city itself, but I don't want their politics to kind of trickle in. So I feel like the type of people who are running, I feel like we need somebody who has a voice to keep that at bay.
Yep.
And to tell them, no, we don't want that. Katie Gallego wants to send all the homeless people to all the small cities around her to get instead of dealing with it, she wants to use our resources, our money, ruin our communities instead of doing something for it where they're at now. So they've already started here in Avondale. They're building a homeless shelter. It doesn't have that many rooms, so it doesn't make sense to me why they're doing it, other than the fact that they're just gonna start moving this way instead of staying where they're at the moment.
Interesting. All right. Well, that is a good message. So I definitely want to drop our friends' website as well. It's patriotsunited.us. Make sure to check out our friends at patriotunited.us. They're doing amazing work bringing us American first candidates. How can people help you? What's the website? What would you like them to do?
So today's the last day in Arizona to register to vote for my election, July 30th. So if you're in Arizona, specifically in Avondale, but everywhere in Arizona, please register to vote. Check your voting today. And you could donate to my campaign at JeanetteGarcia4Arizona.com. $5, $10 helps me to get a new sign, to go send out postcards, to be able to get my word out to everyone in the community. But sharing my social media as well helps so much more sometimes. So you can find me on Instagram at JNET_Margarita. And I'm the same on Twitter.
JNET Margarita on X and Instagram. Well, thank you so much for coming on, Jeanette. It's been an absolute pleasure. We wish you the best of luck. Bring it home.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Have a great day.
All right, well, there you have it. Jeanette Garcia running for city council in Avondale City there. You know, this is very important for us to get involved at a local level. I can't stress it enough. It is very hard to run for the U.S. House, for the U.S. Senate. There's so much money involved. There's so much politics. You have, you know, friends of friends and family members and everything else. People have been lining that stuff up for years. And this actually, they've been doing the same at the local level, but it can be easier to get in there. You may not have such an apparatus as well of people that are putting out all types of absentee ballots and maybe magic electronic voting machines. And if we are able to get more influence at this local level, maybe we can get rid of the magic electronic voting machines. Maybe we can then affect the fact that maybe we shouldn't be taking in so many absentee ballots. They call them mail-in ballots now. I still kind of call them absentee ballots most of the time. But very great. It was great to talk to her. Wish her the best of luck. Support her there. You saw her website. I can put it up again here at the bottom. Jeanette Garcia4Arizona.com. So you can check her out over there. One of the things I did mention in there was the fact that I thought, and it was that the timing of the Supreme Court upholding the presidential immunity for Trump was kind of suspect at best. You know, like everybody is. I mean, Bannon's going to jail yesterday. It's like a dark day in the history of the United States. Bernard Kerik, you know, one of the heroes of America, is dropping off Steve Bannon, another hero of America, to jail. A dark day, and everybody is celebrating the fact that Supreme Court says that Trump has presidential immunity. Well, of course, Trump has presidential immunity. He was the president. You know what I mean? Like, people need to, like, you know, step into a bit of reality here. Like, oh my gosh, you know? And so there was actually, and I'll share this. There was a post that he put out yesterday. I did respond to it. But, you know, the timing, and I hate to think that it was like that. I hate to think that it was done on purpose, but I don't know. I mean, seems like it. Like, everybody should just be up in arms at the fact that Steve Bannon is going to jail for the same thing that Merrick Garland is doing. Same thing. The same thing that Obama's attorney general did. That crook, forget his name. The same thing that so many people have done, but because he is against the central bank, against the deep state, he's going to jail for it. And people should be very upset. You know, we should actually be in the streets. We should be in the streets, but everyone's too scared to come to DC and go to the streets. We're gonna have to get over that. A dark day, Bernard Carrick says. This is Bernard Carrick, official Twitter account of Bernard B. Carrick, 40th Police Commissioner of the New York Police Department and New York Times bestseller. Many of you know Bernard. He was instrumental after the 9/11 attacks of doing everything. So a dark day in U.S. history as Eric Prince and I dropped Steve Bannon at the Danbury Federal Prison. It should have been Liz Cheney and her cohorts on the J6 committee. Free Steve Bannon. So Steve Bannon is going in for his for a 4-month sentence. From what I understand, he may be able to broadcast from there, do his podcast. I responded, I said, glad you're with him, which is a very true statement. I'm glad that it was Bernard Carrick that went and dropped him off. A dark day indeed. May God bless Bannon during this time and give the men of America the needed courage to fight the embedded deep state. And, you know, it's so important, guys, because it is courage to do it, because it's not easy. You see them throwing everybody in jail, but I can't stress enough that if we all collectively fight back, if we all collectively say no, if we all collectively do it, then there's nothing they can do. Together, we are much stronger. And actually, even if I went on a little bit further than this, there's actually another thing. Speaking of acting collectively, this was, so there was a lady who was fired from her job, Tanja Benton, and she was fired for refusing to get the jab. And she just won a $687, basically $700,000 settlement. And I said, look, you know, do you feel stupid that you took the jab and when you could have collected this? Please use this as a lesson that we must stand together against the tyrannical deep state that controls our government. They couldn't have fired Tanja Benton if everyone had refused. And it's a very important lesson, guys, because if nobody has any courage, then we really are done. And this is a failed experiment. It's not easy. Freedom's not free. We have to fight for it, or our kids have no future. Our kids will have no future whatsoever. So it's really important that we need to fight back. Is there a chance it will change for Merrick Garland since yesterday? No, he's in jail. Tepid is employed by them. Oh, okay. And here we go. The TN Blue Cross Blue Shield. She was our friend here was employed by them. They refused to acknowledge her religious mandate. Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of stuff like this. It's absolutely crazy. But if we all just bend over and take it, then that's how we get treated. But if we stand together and we say no, what are they going to do? You know what I mean? Not what are they going to do? What are we going to do? Like, we need to flip this, okay? So we got to get this out of our head. Like, we have to work together. We have to be accepting of each other, and we have to work together to push this. And we have to, if you know, that was crazy to make everybody do that. It was absolutely insane. Nobody thought that was right, hardly. It's crazy. Anyway, another great show, guys. It is always a pleasure. I did mention we are growing very quickly. Looks like we're going to be on. We're going to really go big time here over the next little bit into 136 million people's homes. That is in the works. So we're working on it, putting that together. If you want to get involved, then you should. Now is a good time to do it. If you'd like to park your money with us over at Smart Money Culture TV, then, you know, not financial advice and all that stuff, but we can we'll use it and we'll give you some amazing returns. Or, well, that's the plan. Nothing is guaranteed. Okay, but you see us. We're here on TV. We're growing a lot. We're in front of about 10 million people at the moment. We're about to go to 136 million people. I just put the thing there, the smc.tv Talk to you later. Always good to see you. The smc.tv. Go there, click on, contact us. Let us know who you are. Don't come to us with your last 100,000 or anything like that. But if you have some money, if you have over $250,000 or $100,000, $500,000, something like that, and you're looking for a place to park it, we can do. It'll help us grow a lot. You should, the ROI on TV is $7 for every $1 spent. $7 for every $1 spent. That's why they don't let normal people on TV. They make everybody do social media, right? Yeah, that's why. That's why. So it's the smc.tv. It is also smartmoneyculture.tv. So those both websites go to the same one, the smc.tv/Smart Money Culture TV. Get involved. We have a lot going on. We're doing a lot, and things sell on TV. You're going to be pretty happy with that. So another great show. I will be back in a few hours. Cheers.
Your voice is powerful. When combined with social engagement, it's a force for change. Decentralized media paired with free speech is the catalyst for an empowered world and a unified, invaluable ecosystem. Join Global Boost, become a champion of free speech, and help to reshape the future of media.